Hey, welcome everybody to Talking Niagara. This is Friday, the 8th of November. Gosh, 8th of November already. What did you do to the year, Dave?
I don't know, but we started talking about Christmas back in June, if you remember.
Yeah, you put the death knell on the year back in June, didn't you?
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
actually, even before that, I think around the time of Easter, before the year's almost over, better get out your Christmas list. And yet here it is, almost there already. Isn't that amazing?
and I suppose most people haven't done their got they haven't even completed their Christmas list, let alone bought anything.
Yeah. Wow. So there you have it. We have
But you don't pay me enough so that I can buy anything. Hey, I earn less. I earn less than minimum wage here.
well, actually, I got a raise. I'm making double what I made last year and double the year before. So I don't know what's happening to you, brother. I'm getting raises every time.
Yeah, but zero times two equals zero.
Yeah, well, it's double nothing, I guess, I suppose. So that's not quite a quantity,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Well,
if I say it, it's not a lie. I made double what I made last year. And if you made zero,
yeah.
you made exactly the same. I made 10 times what I made last year. It's not a
Yeah.
lie.
Right. Hi, Chris, and hi, Mike.
Metaphysical
Glad to
Mike,
see,
Chris, how's it going?
glad to see you on Facebook. Just something for you guys. I haven't seen any way that the comments stay on YouTube. So if you're going to be commenting and you want to see your comments, you're going to keep the best on having them on Facebook. But there you go. All right. So just as a couple of kind of very quick ones to begin with, Bitcoin is jumping to record highs because there's now a crypto frenzy after the Trump win.
Well, that's because his new buddy's Elon Musk, and Elon Musk loves crypto. Trump did not like crypto for right up until now. But once his new buddy is Elon Musk, he likes it, and
Yeah.
he has
But
decided he's going to make a
the
real
trouble is,
repository of cryptocurrency in the United States.
yeah, the trouble with something like crypto is unless you understand it, you probably don't like it.
I have no real understanding of it. It's not tangible to me. I'm really a techno peasant.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what this does is that what Trump is going to do in different. The problem with cryptocurrency is it cannot be tracked, and as a matter of fact, it is even more. It's eco unfriendly. Basically, it's environmentally unfriendly because it demands a certain amount of computers to be on at all times in order to keep the blockchain stable, which takes up a lot of energy, which there's all kinds of different things wrong with it. But most of us can't understand it, that you
Yeah.
have this kind of a digital currency. We can understand that we've got bank money in the bank and we can digitally transfer it from person to person, but that comes out of our bank and goes there. But we know we made it with regular cash.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. Because
cryptocurrency is,
I can send you my entire week's worth of wages, I, by email transfer.
please
Right,
do.
most countries do exactly, have those kind of capabilities where you can do those kinds of things, but that's not the same as Bitcoin.
That's right. So basically, it is a digital currency I don't know. It's hard for us to understand it because when we were under the gold and silver system, we had to have amounts of gold and silver to back our currency.
Yeah,
Uh,
but a
Nixon took us off the gold. Go
yeah,
ahead.
gold and silver makes sense because you can see it. It's a physical thing. You can touch it. You can hold it. Not that this is a gold bar, but you get the impression, right? It's something you can pick up. It's something you can touch. It has weight, and it has value.
Yes, it's a rare metal. That's why it has value. It's rare.
Yeah.
So the Brits based theirs on pound sterling. The Americans had theirs in gold. However, around the time Nixon, he switched that out. He didn't want to have a gold reserve to back up the currency. It was getting very awkward. So what they did was they based their currency on the economic wherewithal of the United States.
Yeah.
This is worth $1 because of the strength of our economy, not the strength of our gold reserves. So they made that transition.
Yeah.
And you still had $1, a physical dollar, basically. But now this is something quite different. It's not based on an individual economy. Although it seems that Trump is going to try to do something about making a cryptocurrency repository in the United States and get the jump on other economies and get on cryptocurrency. But everybody that most economic advisors these days, right down to Warren Buffett, say cryptocurrency is just fine, but be prepared to lose everything because there's something substantial holding it up.
Yeah, because it's a buyer beware situation. All right.
Yeah.
I think we can move on from that one. The mayor's proposed budget book is available now to the public, and I'm going to give you I'm going to give everybody in the comments a couple of links, because this is the link to the budget, right? This is one of them, and the other one is this one here. Copy, and I'm going to pop this one in the link as well. So what I've given you is the page, which is budget 2025. The budgets it does the 2023 spending. It does the budgets, 24 budgets,
2025,
22 budgets, etc. It also gives you the link to the 2025 budget, a capital budget book, right? But I've also then given you the actual link to the capital budget book. So that's the second of the links that I put up there. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good idea for citizens to have a good look at that, to understand where their money's going every time they pay taxes.
Yeah, what the proposal?
And you would be much less sort of content in complaining about politicians if you understood what the process is about. So we like to complain about our politicians, but sometimes we're not really complaining about them well enough because we don't know what they're doing, and this shows you what that is.
And looking at the budget books will basically mean that you can, okay, so I grant that most people are not financial wizards, right? But again, if they're open and available to the public, that means that we can go study them. That means we can ask questions, and everybody has the right to ask questions.
Yeah, it's laid out fairly simply, but I mean, it's a droner. It's going to make you fall asleep, but
I grant that.
But it's there for you to see, and it's wide open. It's and that's good. Democracy has to be like that. So they have put that out there and made it very easy for the average citizen to get it and to look it over. A complete complete openness here as it appears. So
yeah.
It's hard to complain about a politician if you can complain about a politician or political all you want, but if you don't know what's going on there, what basis do you have for those complaints?
Yeah.
My street didn't get plowed up or whatever. So if you read something like this, you have a better idea, and you can see where there's weaknesses in the government or where there is strengths in the government by acquainting yourself with the process of the government.
I would also say that if you're going to look at a budget, if you're going to look at at the budget book or the budgets in general, go there with a specific question in mind, right? Because if you've got a specific question, I'm not suggesting you will necessarily find the answer, but you will at least understand. For example, what it's been a lot of demand in our neighborhood for a traffic light to occur at this junction. Why hasn't it been done? You can at least go and understand, some of the whys and wherefores of that.
Yeah. Anyway, there's the budget. You can have a look at it. You can see how the city's money is being spent.
Yeah.
And if you want to drill down into any one of those things a little bit more, that's a good idea.
And anyway. I'm happy that we also potentially have a discussion about this. If people have got questions, let's put some questions up. Let's do some research into those topics. And, if we've got specific questions about the budget, let's go and investigate it. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. Future shows, maybe. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. Going on. Iran warns Israel and U.S. of retaliation as fighting continues.
Oh, brother. Here we go. Well, Donald J. Trump said that he could stop the wars, and the wars wouldn't have happened if he was in office.
Yeah.
Maybe not, because Joe Biden is so weak. You see how Netanyahu slaps him around every day.
Oh, yeah.
Blinken is just a dish rag, basically, being slapped around by Biden, a piece of garbage thrown into the garbage. It's just, so I don't think that Donald J. Trump will be that spineless. However, he might not care a hell of a lot about the Gaza Strip one way or another, because he probably doesn't even care. Ukraine probably is more important to him because it means more money for the United States and trade and stability and all that. But I think he'll just let Gaza get crushed to cinders. And I think, but will Iran retaliate? Will it do it now? I think it has a very good.
I don't think Iran really wants war at this stage, even though they're making noises. I don't think they really want it. And
I believe that there's a very good chance of them to retaliate against Israel because they'll have the whole Muslim world on their side. This thing in Gaza has never stopped. The United States has let it go on and facilitated it. They may just throw it, and because they got the Russians and the Koreans and the Chinese on their side now, they have a much better chance of surviving any retaliation that the that the Israelis will give back. Remember that the Americans went with their huge bombs and dropped them in Yemen with their stealth fighters. Those are deep bombs that go deep into the ground, 300-400 meters, 500 meters, and explode. So that's the reason why they did that in Yemen. It was to show Iran, we could do that to your nuclear facilities. You are not safe. However, Israel doesn't have that capability, but the United States will do it for them. And that's probably the big thing that Iran's worried about. So Iran has the right to retaliate because it's been attacked several times. And whether you like Iran or you like Israel or not, in the rules of war, if you drop something on me, I'll drop something on you, back and forth like that. Unfortunately, if it explodes into anything bigger, I don't know what to do. It could get really out of hand here.
We've seen Israel target leaders of Hezbollah and Hamas. I'm wondering if they might well send a drone over and target 85-year-old Khomeini.
They definitely would like to have some regime change, but if they killed Khomeini, it might have the opposite effect. It may martyr him.
Yeah.
And among the Shia culture, martyrdom is a big deal because their religious leader, Hassan Ali, who was the the cousin of, or was it the nephew or the cousin or something like that of Muhammad, died fighting for his idea of what the religion would be way back in 630.
He was nephew, yeah.
Yeah, nephew.
Ali was nephew, yeah.
Yeah. So there he goes. And his martyrdom is impressed upon the Shia version of Islam. So martyrdom is an honorable, good thing. It is sanctioned. It's very high in their ideological faith. Ideological. So for the Khomeini to become a martyr, that might ignite the rest of the Iranians against the U.S. Right now, too, the U.S. They don't want to do anything that puts more power into the Khomeini's hands, because the Khomeini right now is struggling, and his whole administration is struggling because there is a lot of discontent in Iran. Yeah. All kinds of discontent in Iran. And they have a lot of young people there chomping at the bit. You got these really old imams telling everybody what to do, and the young people don't like that. Right now, they're holding everything down by force. So, yeah, regime change is the way to go. But to martyr the Khomeini, that might have a reverse effect.
I would certainly agree. It's easy to kind of put that one up there because they have been doing such things to Hamas and Hezbollah. But I think you're right. That might not have the same impact in fact, it doesn't even have the same impact. It doesn't even have that impact in Hezbollah and Hamas. In some respects, it's argued better to have the enemy that you know who they are, and trace them and and track them and spy on them, than to have an enemy that you don't even know who they are.
The United States
get new leaders, to figure out who the new leaders are and track them.
Well, the United States and Israel, with mammoth support from the United States, has been able over years to track down where all these different leaders are and where they more likely will be. So not only do they have spies on the ground, but the United States has devoted a great deal of its intelligence to work with the Israeli intelligence to find out where in all these people are, where they have extraordinary capabilities. Hezbollah, Iran, and Hamas. Hamas is not a very tech savvy outfit, but Hezbollah in Iran really did not have any of the expectations of how much more advanced the Israeli and American intelligence was than their own. I think this has shocked them incredibly. I think they just didn't listen to the warnings that were coming their way, that the Israelis, along with massive amounts of American support, developed intelligent networks that were far and above better than anything they could have had. This has allowed them to kill just about every important leader in Hamas, Hezbollah, and threaten those in Iran. Basically, they're saying every time the Israelis bomb, they say we can find you anywhere you want. You can't hide. We can get to you.
Yeah, but my point was that it's better to know where they are and know who they are and spy on them and track them than actually be finding the next generation of leader.
Well, they decided not to worry about the next generation of leader with Hamas and Hezbollah. Obviously, they've chopped all the heads off. But they're threatening, which would put a shiver down the backbone of the Iranian government. We can get you. We can find you, no matter who you are. If you're a general, if you're in charge of the street sweepers, we can find you and take you out. Yeah. So the message is very clear that Israel believes that it can assassinate anyone it wants. It has that intelligence capability.
And how many drones are flying over Iran right now, one way or another? I'm sure you've got American drones that are up there as well.
Maybe in remote areas. I think most of their intelligence comes from tapping into the computer networks and the communication systems, and from satellites. The satellite imagery they have nowadays is extremely good. So
Yeah.
So I think it's along those ways. But what Iran is going to do, who knows? Now that Donald Trump has won, we don't know. We do know that the 30-day, I don't know what's going to happen here, because that 30-day ultimatum that Blinken and Axelrod, whatever that guy's name is, who's a defense minister. Remember, they gave him a 30-day Israel, a 30-day ultimatum.
Yeah.
What?
That's over now, isn't it?
No, I think it's got 2 or 3 more days to go,
okay.
and they said,
good as, yeah,
and they said,
kind of ignored it.
Yeah, and they've ignored it up to now. Apparently, they're picking up their socks a little bit, and they've sent in a convoy or two. But they let them starve them for 30 days. That's killer. Like, I mean, oh, well, you know what? We see we're not letting you any food or humanitarian, humanitarian aid. So, you know what? We'll give you 30 days to do that. Meanwhile, you let everybody starve or die of simple diseases for 30 days. It's madness. You know what? I'm in one sense, I'm glad this Biden administration is going. Anytime I listen to their news briefings, I think, what a bunch of idiots. They look stupid. They look weak. They're always making excuses for Israel. They're always making excuses for themselves. Well, we did tell the Israelis not to do that. Well, they did it. What are you going to do about it? Well, we had a stern talk with them. We did. We rarely let them know. Well, they did it again. What are you going to do? Well, we had another talk with him. Yes, we did.
Okay, so our Facebook user here is asking, what was flying over our night sky last night? Did anyone see the lights and objects flying by with no noise? I didn't see them, but if they were flying with no noise, it's likely they were drones.
Possibly, or I have a theory myself that the space aliens that had secretly come into the United States once Trump won, they jumped in their spaceships and went back home.
Right. Protests in Israel as Netanyahu fires his defense minister, Yoav Gallant.
This is another signal that more and more Palestinians are going to die, and that Netanyahu could care less about the hostages. He doesn't care about them at all. He is actually indirectly activating the Hannibal imperative or directive. The Hannibal. As soon as those people were captured, he saw it was a good way in which to annihilate the Palestinians as much as he could. Yoav Gallant went along with that for a while, but at this particular point, Gallant they've been fighting for some time, and Gallant says, we can make a deal, we can make a peace deal, we can get those people back, and so he got fired. He actually was Yoav Gallant, if you remember, about a month ago, he was on his way to the United States to talk to the military and political figures there to see if they could come to some kind of agreement, and Netanyahu refused to let him go.
Yeah.
Now he's throwing them right out.
Well, and almost with this is metaphorically, you've kind of got bulldozers rumbling through Gaza, driven by soldiers right now, haven't you?
Yeah, and 70%
who they trample over. It's just out the way, out the way, out the way. Right? That's the metaphorical picture we've got.
85,000 tons of explosives on a place that's what 20 by 5 wide or something, or 40 kilometers by 5 kilometers wide, that has 2.3 million people in it. And the world, the West, stands by and says this shouldn't happen, but does nothing. It allows Israel to massacre Palestinians every day, move them around, deprive them of food and medical, and destroy every little piece of infrastructure and housing they have. And Biden will go straight to hell for this, and so will Blinken. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And okay, so the news in that regard is that Defense Minister Yoav Gallant was fired by Netanyahu. And clearly too moderate now. Kind of Netanyahu is sending the metaphorical bulldozers in and just doesn't care about the Gaza Strip anymore.
He doesn't care about the hostages. That's the big thing. He could care less about the hostages. As long as Hamas holds the hostages, he has a reason to annihilate the Palestinians. If the hostages become free, then the war has to stop. He doesn't want the war to stop. He wants to completely annihilate the Palestinians and make their life miserable. And every time he's asked, are you going to be nice to the Palestinians now? Well, of course I am. And the idea here is, it is in the Likud party directive, the number one issue on the charter of the Likud party, which Benjamin Netanyahu is a member. And the number one thing on that is Israel will be from the river to the sea. Does that sound familiar? That's what the Palestinians are using. But long before them, the Likud party said that river to the sea. So everything from Jordan to the sea, including the West Bank and Gaza, will be a Jewish ethno-religious state. And he, every time he says to him to lie and to lie to any other leader, it doesn't matter as long as his goals are fulfilled. He knows all he has to do is wait out another president, keep them distracted with something else. And Biden has been especially weak, and Blinken has been especially ineffective. If there's anything that Trump's going to bring into this, I hope he's able to stop these wars. I'm not crossing my fingers, but maybe he can do it. They couldn't.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So moving on, Ford is urging President-elect Trump to bet on Ontario-U.S. trade.
Yeah. So that's a good thing that Ford did. Remember, very early on when Trump first started back in 2016, Ford thought he was a pretty good guy, but then Ford changed his mind when Trump started to put tariffs on Ontario goods. Then he turned it around and was against Trump. Right now, he wants to make sure that everybody knows that Ontario is a big contributor to the U.S. economy, and the reverse as well. Yeah. He wants to make sure that Trump is very aware of the advantages of this trade deal for both countries, well, both provinces. So in his capacity as Premier of Ontario, his duty is to make sure that our economic wherewithal is very good. And what he will do is he will stress that. What the biggest fear among Canadians with Americans is their ignorance.
Well, at the end of the day, Ontario's position, and Ontario has a lot of trade with Michigan, has a lot of trade with New York, has a lot of trade with other provinces, but primarily those two, the cross-border stuff. And that cross-border stuff, and of course, Ford wants to protect it because actually it's good for Ontario.
Yeah. And I think we are the number one. Ontario is the number one trade partner of 17 states, and the number two
Possibly.
a partner for 11 more, or the other way around.
Okay, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that Ontario itself is the third largest trading partner of the United States after Canada as a whole and Mexico. So if you look at Ontario's economy of the United States, it is this number 3 trading partner of the United States. But
Yeah,
of course, it's included in Canada as well. But
and there's 52 billion in goods going to Michigan alone.
Yeah, well, yeah. So we have this strong province to state interaction of trade that's very, very valuable for the individual states. The individual states do not want that interrupted. They don't want a mini trade war or tariff war between Ontario and Michigan.
And actually, those those deals have been done some time ago. Those deals are fairly fairly prominent, and they've been they've been worked out for over a number of years. So the companies dealing with them actually don't need tariffs to be going on top of those products, because it upsets the trade balance. That 52 billion in goods with Michigan, that's a phenomenal amount of money, and that's and Ontario to the US in total is 493 billion, and probably that 52 billion, the Michigan one, is probably replicated as well. There's probably about 50 billion comes back this way as well.
Well, yeah, it's a back and forth thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what makes it important for these individual states to have this very vibrant trade agreement between Ontario and these different states. And right now, that trade agreement is working very well. Well, it did under NAFTA too. Before Trump renegotiated it, it was pretty good under NAFTA as well. Trump said there were some trade imbalances, but when everything was all sorted out and shaken down, nothing much changed at all. And so it was just like a lot of huff and bluffer over a few minor things. And these trade agreements have to be renegotiated every once in a while just to bring them up to date, whatever the realities are of the time. Remember, the first NAFTA agreement did not get renegotiated for 26 years. That was probably about 10 years too long before it was. They should be looked at every 10 or 15 years anyway, but we let ours go for 26 years. It had to be adjusted, and that let that big peacock down there, Trump, flap his wings and say, I'm going to make Canada pay.
Well,
they didn't really.
At 70 cents on the dollar, the US has every reason to spend here, says our Facebook user. And then says, no, NAFTA watched all of our equipment get shipped and used elsewhere.
Yeah, but if you looked at the trade, well, the first thing that happened in NAFTA, a lot of the companies just packed up. The companies in Canada that had parent companies in the States just packed up and left and went back to the States because there was no longer any reason to be here, because they could ship their stuff. They could make it cheaper everywhere. So there was a readjustment. But if you looked at the NAFTA, the books overall, all the things that we were supposed to lose, like our vineyards and our agriculture, didn't happen. As a matter of fact, a lot of our agricultural got strengthened. A lot of our factories left, but guess what? That happened in the United States too, because for a brief time, some of our jobs went into the States, particularly in the southern states where they had better tax incentives. But thereafter, they left those places and went into Mexico or into China. So we would have lost them one way or another, because the same jobs that we lost to the States, they lost to China and Mexico. So that, and particularly Mexico, because you can build a lot of stuff there a lot cheaper than you can here. and they're part of the free trade agreement we have. It's a very complicated thing. Basically, you have to look at the bottom line, and when politicians look at the bottom line, are we richer or poorer than last time? Are we making more business or less business? And the open border trade thing is much more beneficial for that overall. Maybe not in every circumstance, but overall.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would tend to agree with that. Okay, so here's an interesting thing as a fallout from this week's election. Apparently, analysis is showing that black voters shifted towards Trump.
Yeah, and remember, these are not big numbers, but they are significant numbers. Remember that Trump won by 3% of the vote. Trump had a landslide, but only 3% of the people voted for him more than Harris. He won by 4.5 million votes. 4.5 million votes out of 143 million voters. That's very little. Trump's got so far 295 electoral seats. So it looks like a huge landslide. But when you actually look at the voters,
it's 73 million to 69.
Yeah, only 3% more for Trump. You have still a very divided country. You've got all the power in one half of the country, the political one half of the country, which is really doesn't tell the story when you only 3% of your population liked Trump more than Harris. Only 4.5 million people voted out of 143 million people voted for Trump over Harris, which still as much as it looks significant, it is still a razor thin victory, 3%.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. There's only 3% in it, and there's two outstanding states to come in, Nevada, where basically Trump is leading again by about 3%, about actually less than 3% in each of those. 3% in each of those, which is Nevada and Arizona. That's the last two states to be announcing. Everything else has been done. Right, and at the moment it's 295 to 226, so likely he's going to win those two states as well. But as it's 73.4 million voted for Trump and 69.074 million voted for Harris at the moment.
So there you got about what, 4.5.
That's
four and a half.
4 and a bit. 4.5 million. Yeah, exactly.
That's all out of 143 million. Well, that's 3%.
Actually, less than 3.5 million. That's three. No, that is 4.5 million. Yeah.
So there you go. That's a very, and so we talk about the black vote moving towards Trump. We're talking about a small amount, but when you have margins like that, 3%, that's a big deal. So blacks and Hispanics and Asians have all been moving towards Trump. The bulk of their support is still behind Democrats, but it's bleeding out little by little. And when you have an election that is determined by 3% of the vote, those little bits make a big difference.
And what they're saying here is, of course, that Harris was expected to reverse the troubling trend for Democrats and win back the black voters who've been steadily drifting away from the party over the years, but that never happened.
Well, Obama and Biden did the same thing. You can't be black if you vote for Republican, he said. Isn't that stupid? Obama said, "What's the matter with you? You're not really black if you're going to be voting for Trump. What's the matter with you?" He was telling the Arabs, right? Well, if you think it's bad now, what if or the Muslims? I mean, if you think it's bad now, wait till you get Trump in. You're better off with it bad instead of worse. That's what he's saying to them. He's also telling young men, "What are you doing? You got to be voting for a black person." And the young men are turning back and saying, "Why? Why? What has this administration done for me? Why? Exactly. Why do you want me to vote for a black woman?" an unpopular black woman. Why?
And that's exactly, I understand exactly that logic. You know, why, what is it in it for me to vote for Harris?
Yeah, what,
that's where and I get that question. I really do.
Well, the Democrats are really quite out of it here.
Yeah.
Like it was said
Well,
so often that we know what's best for you. How come you don't love us when we're trying to do everything that's best for you? And now we're not asking you what you want, but we're going to say we're going to do what's best for you. And we're not going to ask you what you think that is. We're just going to determine it. And you don't love us?
Yeah. And isn't that the same challenge with the Liberals right now?
Yeah, very much so. You have a very, you have the addition of corruption in the Liberal government. Not only are they elitist, we know what's best for you kind of attitude, who have lost complete touch with the average person, but they also are rife with corruption, which is not going to fare well for them either. There's a bunch of different reasons why you don't want to vote for Liberals. They can't govern well because they're always wrapped up in one corruption thing or after another, whether it's the RiveCam or the S whatever it was scam, and one after another. In any case, I think probably we might be better off if Poilievre is in office when it comes time to deal with Trump, because Trump does not like Trudeau, and Poilievre's a new face, and basically everybody's making the same argument though. No matter what stripe you are in Canada, we've got a good thing going here, the trade between us two. We don't want to mess that up. Trump has said that he wants to put a 10% on everything coming into the country, no matter where it's from.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it was Randy West here was saying at the start of NAFTA, I spent 2 years cutting and shipping machines out of Canada. NAFTA was the only good for import companies who didn't need to take any chances on manufacturing. There you go.
Yeah. But the same things happened in the States, didn't it? It didn't last long. And the companies that pulled everything down there, they pulled a pin and took them other places like Mexico.
Right. Okay, so the other ones are also connected to this, but Canadian border is preparing for a spike in asylum seekers who are looking to cross the border.
Yes, I think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get flooded again. I think that Trump is very serious about this, about getting rid of 11 million. I don't think it's feasible. I don't think it's doable because it's too hard of a task. It's like too huge. But he's going to do what he can, and he's going to start pushing people out pretty quick. And where do you think they're going to go? They're going to come up here. And we can refuse them at the border to a point, but they're going to sneak past us somewhere along the line.
Well, we've got 8,000 kilometers of border, 90% of which is not guarded.
That's right. And I plan to make some money because I got a van and I can fill it up and bring it back from the States.
So you're going to go over there. You're going to say tickets to Canada, $100. Condition, you got to keep your heads down.
That's right. And when the administration changes 4 years later, I expect a call to take them back.
So you'll be giving your cards out, Yeah, it was $100 to get you over. This time it's going to be $200 to get you back.
Dave Wheeler has van, will travel. People smuggler par excellence. People smuggler par excellence. Get your program here.
You better start rushing out those brochures, man. Right?
And I'm in competition with all the other van owners out there because I've got water and snacks in my van. So if you want to get smuggled into Canada and then back again, you want to do it in comfort. I've got nice seats. I charge a little bit more, but you get water, snacks, and I have entertainment in there. You
Oh,
can watch a movie going by. I got a little video in there. You can watch movies. I'll play your favorite music. You see, I charge a little bit more, but I treat you better.
but
Plus, I take you directly to the bus station.
I want bungalow music, Dave. You got to give me bungalow music.
What's that? Oh yeah, okay, go, you got it. Dave Whaler, people mover par excellence.
There we go. Illegal business of the day spurned here. Okay, so yeah, I'm not sure as to what extent. Not that we can afford to take any more people because we've been oversaturated for the last 2 or 3 years.
What do you think I should call my van? The Smugglenator?
And you could have the number plate is I smuggle you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, personalized.
Personalized number plates. Yeah, I smuggle you.
I gotta make all kinds of money here.
Okay, so Trudeau has just banned TikTok in Canada. So he's banning TikTok from operating in Canada, but it's still that Canadians can use it. It's just they don't have any servers here and things like that.
Yeah, I kind of expected something like this. Like TikTok is so popular that people would be very upset if they took it off. But you can still use it. You can do all the things you ever want to do it. They just cannot have offices and administration here in the country.
Yeah,
and that is because they've already been connected with espionage and other kinds of things and collecting data. And I'm sure the United States and other people are doing that in other places of the world. But if you find them, you got to get rid of them. And I guess that's what they're doing.
Yeah. And again, they're not there's a lot of social media networks out there. I bet you didn't know of the Kontakate and you didn't know of Ondonaklasniki, which is VK and OK from Russia.
Yeah. Now, I don't know.
I butchered the names, but yeah, you get what I mean saying, right?
Yeah, we're angsting a lot over social media. Social media is extremely influential right now. And we were just talking about Gaza there. We wouldn't have half the idea of what was really going on in Gaza if those videos were not uploaded to TikTok. They're being restricted in other social medias like YouTube and Facebook and all that because they're kind of being censored. But in China, they don't care about that censoring that. They might censor something about the Uyghurs or the Tibetans, but they don't care about what was happening in Gaza, so they let it go on. We wouldn't know half of what was going on in Gaza if it hadn't been for TikTok. Yeah. I talked to a Palestinian guy. He says, I used to hate TikTok because he thought it was like kind of immoral and, a lot of crude and things like that on it. And he says, now I love it. And I love the Chinese for letting this happen because the story of Gaza could get out. And that put a lot of force on traditional press and media to report on it more accurately because they were getting trumped by, no pun intended, they were getting trumped by social media. And social media was reporting more accurately and they couldn't stifle that.
The thing is about it, let's say something happens down your road, you can report it more quickly, more accurately than any member of the press can, because let's face it, even the Niagara Falls Review doesn't operate out of Niagara anymore.
Yeah, we just have to learn how to discriminate what's good and what's bad that comes off of any of these forces, but any of these media forces. But as a matter of national security, Canada will not allow the TikTok to operate within Canada. You can, the average person can still use TikTok, still upload it, still enjoy it, still rely on it, but they won't let the Chinese government get a foothold here with a media forum. So I'm not so sure that they were that much of a risk because so many eyes are on them. If you're a media conglomerate or a media company like TikTok, and you know everybody's watching every move you make, is it really that feasible that you're getting away with anything by just having offices here?
Yeah.
Is this just a symbolic thing?
The offices, I think, are mainly symbolic in this type of thing anyway, because probably 99% of the work, it goes on in China.
Yeah, it's going to shut down the Canadian operators, but you still get on TikTok. So the Canadian operators, how are they a threat? It's not really. It says it's a matter of national security that they're going to shut them down. Is this a tit for tat thing with the Chinese? Is it a symbol to like we hear all these rumors about Chinese interference and all that? Is this just to placate the ignorant among us? Okay, they shut down their operations, but they got rid of TikTok operations, but so that must make a difference. Did it really make that much difference?
Well, in all of this, though, CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Service, has warned Canadians, including teenagers, against using TikTok because of the spyware involved in it. Allegedly.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt for 1 minute if the Chinese thinks they could get a leg up by putting spyware into. I mean, it's very possible. Obviously, the Israelis put explosives in Motorola phones or Motorola pagers. I think they just destroyed that company and probably just bounced right off the NASDAQ. But so as obviously the Chinese government could install spyware of some kind or another. But what good is it going to do spying on some kid?
Yeah.
Because kids mostly are the ones that use TikTok.
It develops into something. It develops into something else. The kid continues to use TikTok even though he's now a 20s and a 30s.
Yeah. So, but still, I don't know what they would get. I can understand the Chinese government trying to get into news agencies or into the governments, or we see that they have threatened the Chinese diaspora in Canada. Those kind of things, yeah. But I can't really see why they think it's a threat for a teenager to watch TikTok because there's spyware in it. That I don't know. Maybe let's put it this way: everybody, Dave, Canadian Coyote Wheeler, yeah.
I thought you'd like that one. I know it was the old. It was the last thing, and I forgot to check on the comments before we left that thing. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't have a TikTok account. It's like I looked at TikTok and went, "What?" Not sure. I'm not sure I understand the benefit it gives, if any.
I'm not so sure how effective banning the operations here, if it's just symbolic or if it's actually effective.
Yeah.
Because if you're allowing people to use TikTok, what's the difference? If you have operations here in Canada, I remember the guy from TikTok arguing in the United States. He was from Singapore, but he worked for TikTok, and they treated him like he was a Chinese agent. And I don't know. If the Chinese government is using it for spyware, well, I'm sure that the U.S. and Russia and all the others are doing the same thing somewhere else. Similarly, I don't know. That's just the world we live in. We can't think one way or another. We can't do anything without anybody watching us. I know that's true because as I told you the other day, or like I think about a month ago, I'm around here singing Amy Winehouse songs, and I'm thinking, and I said to myself out loud, "What a tragedy that Amy Winehouse died so young," and then all of a sudden I'm getting on YouTube all kinds of stuff about Amy Winehouse, and I got it on my phone, little advertisements for Amy Winehouse. I mean, seriously, I mean that could have been coincidental, but holy cow, that's a hell of a coincidence. So you think, well, this little bastard here is listening to me.
In fact, actually, if you were to do a Google search for stripy cups, let's say, hey, I've got one here, right? Well, it could be perceived as stripy, right? Then probably all you'll see for the next 3 weeks is stripy cups on Facebook.
Yeah, but you actually went there. All I did, the TV, the TV. I think that YouTube was on. I just had my phone. So I didn't make any searches at all. I just said it. It was like the phone picked it up and said, aha, look, that dumb old senior guy. Let's try to get him to buy some Amy Winehouse stuff, right? Well, it was amazing. It was amazing. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure that was a coincidence, but it kind of lifted the hairs on the back of my neck up a bit.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't a coincidence, actually. I think that there are sometimes, I wonder. I'm not going to say any more than that. I just wonder, and it's not to say that they will necessarily listen to this, but it's all they need is snippets of listening to this and listening to that. And maybe that helps find advertising that is relevant to you.
Yep.
Right. And okay, so moving on again, the Environment Commissioner says Canada has 6 years to achieve emissions reductions. And what they're basically saying, this is Canada's Commissioner of Environmental Sustainable Development, says we've got 6 years in which to meet the 2030 targets. 2030, 5 years and a month.
Do you think anybody's going to listen to him?
Yeah, and exactly, it's like I'm not entirely sure they will. Yeah, exactly.
I think generally speaking, the environmentalists have gone along the wrong way. They've just they've done this hyperbole of doom and gloom, doom and gloom, doom and gloom. If you don't do it, we're all going to die. Doom and gloom, doom and gloom. Yeah. There are achievable targets and there are not achievable targets.
Yeah.
I think they never say what good we've done. They only say what we haven't done. They're always negative.
Yeah,
you're going to all die because we haven't been able to get under these emissions correctly. That is what I have a problem with. They don't say, look, we did a really good job here. We did a really good job here. We need to do more. Let's go after it. We know we can do it. They don't do anything like that.
Yeah, I know, and that's actually always been my challenge with this, is that, you see, I remember there was an industrial estate in Slough in England that I went to when I went to there when I first started my career. So I actually had did some work for my employer at one of the companies in that trading estate, and that trading estate had a power station and couple of power stations in it. One actually a private one by Mars Corporation, another one in there which was publicly run, and they were chugging out black smoke into the atmosphere back in the day when I first went there. But those places are clean now. They don't run power the same way as they used to run power. They've got, so last time I went to that place, like 30 years later, it was entirely clean. So we do change.
If they packed up and went to China, they would be making as much mess as they did before.
And that's and in fact, actually, I'd prefer that they'd stayed in that industrial estate, because now that industrial estate has got cleaner fuel, cleaner energy, cleaner whatever, right?
Well, unfortunately, like, yeah, so we've cleaned up our emissions here, but what we do is then we pack up our industries, take them to the Far East, and they produce the huge emissions with the coal burning plants.
And but you're right
Because
about
it's
the target.
and we turn the other way. We say to ourselves here in Canada, we got to reduce our emissions, so we can't produce as much oil as we wanted to. But we're gonna, because we can't produce as much as we wanted to, we have to import more, which makes no sense at all.
No, none at
Because
all. None
you know,
whatsoever. Yeah. Yeah. None whatsoever. And the thing is, targets to be, it doesn't matter whether what with targets, in order that targets can be achieved, they have to be achievable. So, for example, if you were a salesman and you sold $100,000 worth of product last year, and I said to you, Dave, that was brilliant that you did $100,000 worth of sales last year, but now you've got a target of $200,000 worth of sales, right? And I'm now giving you unrealistic targets.
well, the doom and gloom scenario is a bad thing.
Yeah,
And the idea that we have to make sacrifices, but no one else in the world has to. We expect the rest of the world to make these sacrifices. Yeah, climate change is an existential threat to our planet and everything. But you cannot win over anybody by threatening him. And it is always, for some reason, the Canadian government and others think by forcing you can force people to change their attitude. So if you want them to buy a hybrid car, then you put up the gas. You hurt them at the gas station. So you hurt that guy going off to his construction job. You hurt that girl going off to her office job. You do that. You make them pay, because we're going to punish you for using gas. And if we keep punishing you and sticking you with this prod, that will change your mind and make you buy an electric vehicle. That doesn't work. This is a cattle prod. We're going to charge you. We're going to hurt you at the pump. So you'll buy a hybrid car. I can't afford a hybrid car. Well, we're still going to keep hitting you with that cattle prod.
Yeah, I know. All right, we've got to get going.
Okay.
I've got to get going. Yeah. All right, so we're at 8:02 anyway. So thank everybody for being here, and have a great weekend. But Dave,
without further ado, I bid you adieu. Peace, everyone.